My life was like a perfect melody, every note in place, until the first sour chord struck. I'm Sophia, 35, a violinist in Boston, where the city's hum blends with the strings I've played since I was a kid. Music's been my blood, my breath. I've graced stages from Carnegie Hall to small jazz clubs, but these days I teach violin to kids with big dreams and compose in my quiet moments. My son, Ethan, 10 years old, is the real song of my life. His laugh, his curious eyes, they're why I get up every morning. Without him, I'd be lost. Then there's Michael, my husband, a music producer, all charm and sharp suits, with a smile that used to make my knees weak. When we met, he was this whirlwind of passion, talking about chords and rhythms like they were poetry. I fell hard for his talent, his drive. God, I was so stupid back then, thinking he was my forever. 12 years of marriage, and what do I have now? A fancy house in Back Bay, a kid who's my world, and a husband who's starting to feel like a stranger. From the outside, my life looks like a postcard. Cozy brownstone, ivy creeping up the bricks, Ethan's drawings taped to the fridge, Michael's awards on the mantle. But lately something's off. Michael's been coming home late, his phone glued to his hand, always locked. When I ask about his day, he snaps, "It's just work, Sophia, relax." His voice has this edge, like I'm the one bothering him. I tell myself it's stress. Big projects, tight deadlines. He's always been intense about his career, but there's this gnawing in my gut like a string about to snap. I try to keep things normal for Ethan. He's got his soccer games, his comic books, and his endless questions about why stars shine. Last week, we sat on the couch, him curled up against me, watching some superhero movie. I was half listening, half worrying about Michael when Ethan tugged my sleeve. "Mom, you okay? You look sad." I forced a smile, ruffled his hair. "I'm fine, buddy, just tired." But his words stuck with me. Kids see everything, don't they? Then, a few nights ago, Ethan dropped a bomb. We were in the kitchen, him sneaking an extra cookie, me pretending not to notice. He leaned in, voice low, like he was sharing a secret. "Mom, I saw Dad texting someone. He was smiling, like super happy. I think it was a lady." My heart stopped. I laughed it off, said, "Oh, probably just a client. You know how Dad is." But inside, I was reeling. Ethan's not a liar. He's got this pure, honest streak, like he can't help but spill the truth. I hugged him tight, sent him to bed, and stood there staring at the sink, feeling like the floor was crumbling. I tried to shake it off. Maybe it was nothing. Maybe I was paranoid. But then, yesterday, I was doing laundry, mundane, right? And found a concert ticket in Michael's jacket pocket. Not one of my shows. Some jazz thing at a club downtown, dated last weekend, when he said he was stuck at the studio. I held that ticket, my hands shaking, and it was like the room got smaller. Why didn't he tell me? Why hide it? I stuffed it back in the pocket, but it's burned into my brain now. Boston's autumn is gorgeous, all crimson leaves and crisp air, but it feels heavy this year. I walk Ethan to school, past the Charles River sparkling under gray skies, and I can't stop wondering, is Michael just busy or is he slipping away? I think about the early days when we'd stay up late, my violin singing, him scribbling lyrics on napkins. He'd look at me like I was the only woman in the world. Now he barely looks at me at all. I'm not some naive girl anymore. I know life isn't a fairy tale, but I've poured everything into this family, my music, my heart, my trust. I gave up tours to raise Ethan to keep us together. And Michael? He's out there, living his big shot producer life, while I'm here, teaching scales to teenagers and wondering why my husband's phone is a fortress. I hate this feeling, this creeping doubt. It's like a bad note in a symphony, throwing everything off. I keep telling myself to stay calm, to focus on Ethan. He's got a recital coming up, his first time playing piano in front of a crowd. I'm helping him practice, clapping when he nails a tricky part, and for a moment, it's just us, no shadows. But at night, when the house is quiet, I lie awake, Michael's side of the bed cold. I think about that ticket, about Ethan's words. About the way Michael's laugh doesn't reach his eyes anymore. I want to believe it's nothing, that I'm overreacting. But deep down, I know something's wrong. And I'm terrified of what I might find if I start pulling at the threads. I'm Sophia, the woman who's played for thousands, who's raised a brilliant kid, who's built a life that looks perfect. But right now, I'm just a wife with a sinking heart, holding onto a marriage that might be a lie. I don't know what's coming, but I know I can't ignore it anymore. That ticket in Michael's pocket? It's not just paper. It's a crack in the melody I thought we'd play forever. I used to think love was like a duet, two people weaving their notes into something beautiful. Michael and I had that once, or so I thought. Now, every time I look at him, I see that damn concert ticket in my mind, and I wonder how many lies I've swallowed. I'm Sophia, still 35, still clutching my violin like it's the only thing keeping me sane. Boston's leaves are falling faster now, carpeting the streets in red and gold, but my world feels like it's fraying at the edges. I can't stop thinking about the past. Those days when Michael was my everything. We met at a dive bar gig, me playing a fiery solo, him in the crowd, eyes locked on me. After, he bought me a cheap beer and talked about music like it was the only thing that mattered. We'd spend nights in his tiny studio, me coaxing melodies from my violin, him hunched over a keyboard, creating magic. I remember one night we finished a piece at 3 a.m., and he grabbed my face, kissed me hard, and said, "Sophia, you're my muse." God, I was so young, so stupid, believing every word. I thought we were building a symphony together. Then Ethan came, this perfect little boy who changed everything. I scaled back my performances, traded late-night gigs for bedtime stories. Michael, though, he kept climbing. More projects, more trips, more time away. I told myself it was for us, for Ethan's future. But looking back, I was a fool. A damn fool who ignored the signs because I wanted to believe in him. I wanted to believe in us. It started small. A year ago, I saw a text on his phone. Some woman named Claire saying, "Miss you studio tonight?" I confronted him, heart pounding, and he laughed it off. "Just a singer, babe, she's joking." I bought it because doubting him felt like doubting myself. But the doubts kept piling up. He'd come home smelling like perfume, not mine. He'd talk about work, but his stories were vague, like he was hiding the details. And then there was Lisa, this new talent he couldn't shut up about. Every time he said her name, his eyes lit up, his voice got this spark. "She's got something special, Sophia. You'd like her." Like hell I would. I tried to stay calm, to focus on Ethan. He's been practicing his piano piece for the recital, and watching him play, his small fingers dancing over the keys, makes my heart ache with pride. But even he's noticed things. Last night we were eating spaghetti, him twirling noodles like a pro, when he looked up, all serious. "Mom, why's Dad always on his phone? He's not like he used to be." I froze, sauce dripping off my fork. "He's just busy, buddy," I said, but my voice sounded hollow. Ethan didn't push, but his eyes said he knew I was lying. Then, this morning, everything shifted. I was helping Ethan with his homework, music blaring from the radio, when he tugged my sleeve. "Mom, I heard Dad on the phone last night. He was talking about your music, said it was for Lisa's big break." My blood went cold. My music? The piece I've been working on for months, pouring my soul into every note? I never showed it to anyone, not even Michael. It's locked in my notebook, my private sanctuary. How the hell did he get it? I forced a smile, told Ethan, "Must have misheard, sweetie." But inside, I was screaming. I couldn't let it go. After Ethan went to school, I sat in our living room, the autumn light slanting through the windows, and I replayed every moment. The late nights, the locked phone, the ticket, and now this. My music, my heart, handed to some wannabe starlet. I thought about those early days again when Michael and I would lie in bed, planning our future, promising to always have each other's backs. I gave up so much for him, for this family. And what's he done? Stolen my work, my trust, maybe even my life. I'm not proud of it, but I started digging. I checked his jacket again, found nothing but lint. I eyed his laptop, sitting on the kitchen counter like a taunt, but I didn't touch it. Not yet. I'm not ready to cross that line, to admit I don't trust him. But the thought of Lisa singing my notes, Michael cheering her on, it's like a knife twisting in my gut. I hate how bitter I sound, how paranoid, but I can't help it. Every time I pick up my violin, I hear his voice praising her, and it's like my music's been tainted. Boston feels colder now, the wind biting as I walk to my studio. I pass couples holding hands, laughing, and it makes me want to scream. Was I ever that happy with Michael, or was it all a lie? I think about Ethan, how he deserves a dad who's there, not some slick producer chasing his next fling. I think about my music, how it's always been my truth, and now even that feels stolen. I'm not sure what's worse, the idea that Michael's cheating, or that he's taken the one thing I thought was mine alone. I'm still Sophia, the violinist, the mom, the wife, but I'm also a woman who's starting to see the cracks in her perfect life. That ticket was just the beginning. Ethan's words, Lisa's name, my stolen music. They're pieces of a puzzle I don't want to solve, but I have to. I can't keep pretending everything's fine. Not when my heart's telling me it's not. I don't know what I'll find, but I know one thing. I'm done being the fool who believes in a duet that's already gone silent. I couldn't take it anymore. The doubts, the lies, the way Michael's betrayal was seeping into every corner of my life, it was choking me. I'm Sophia, still 35, still gripping my violin like it's my lifeline. But now I'm a woman on fire, burning with rage and heartbreak. Boston's autumn has turned bitter, the wind howling through the streets, matching the storm inside me. Ethan's words about my music being used for Lisa, that new talent Michael's obsessed with, lit a fuse I couldn't ignore. I had to know the truth, even if it destroyed me. I waited until Michael left for one of his late studio sessions. Ethan was at a sleepover, thank God, because I didn't want him seeing me like this, sneaking around like some paranoid detective. I sat in our living room, the silence deafening, and stared at Michael's laptop. My hands shook as I opened it. His password was Ethan's birthday, the same as always. And that small detail twisted the knife deeper. How could he use our son's name to guard his secrets? I clicked through his emails, my heart pounding so loud I could barely think. And then I found it, an email to Lisa sent 2 days ago. This track's gonna make you a star, baby. Sophia's violin piece is perfect for you. I did this for us. Attached was my composition, my soul, stolen and gifted to her like it was nothing. I read it again, my vision blurring. Baby? Us? I was trembling, rage and pain crashing together like a discordant chord. I kept digging, like picking at a wound. There were more emails, photos too. Michael and Lisa at some club, her arm around his waist, his grin wide and carefree, the way he used to look at me. Another picture, them in a studio, her hand on his chest, both laughing. I felt sick, like the air had been sucked out of the room. This wasn't just a fling. This was my husband building a whole other life, using my music to do it. I sat there staring at the screen and something in me broke. All those years I gave him, my career, my trust, my heart, and this is what I got? A thief and a liar who didn't even have the guts to face me. I couldn't stay silent, not anymore. I spent the next day gathering everything, screenshots of the emails, copies of the photos, even a voice memo I found on his cloud, him telling Lisa, Sophia's too busy with Ethan to notice, we're good. Every word was a punch, but it fueled me. I wasn't just hurt, I was furious. I called a friend who knew a lawyer, got advice on protecting my music and my rights, then I planned my move. No more playing the good wife, swallowing my doubts. Michael was going to answer for this, and I'd make sure he couldn't lie his way out. That night, I told Ethan I had a work thing and dropped him off at my sister's. I drove to Michael's studio, the place where we used to create together, now tainted by his betrayal. My hands gripped the steering wheel, knuckles white, as I rehearsed what I'd say. The city lights blurred past, Boston's skyline cold and sharp. I parked, grabbed my folder of evidence, and walked in. The studio was buzzing. Technicians, assistants, and there they were, Michael and Lisa, laughing over a mixing board like they owned the world. My stomach churned, but I held my head high and marched over. I slammed the folder on the table, papers spilling out. Michael, you're a real piece of work, I shouted, my voice cutting through the room. Everyone froze. Lisa's smile vanished, and Michael's face went pale. What's this, Sophia? He stammered, but I wasn't letting him play dumb. You stole my music for her. I jabbed a finger at Lisa, who looked like she wanted to bolt. You're sleeping with her, lying to me, to Ethan. How long, huh? I flipped open the folder, photos and emails staring up at him. He tried to interrupt. Sophia, you're overreacting. But I was done listening. I pulled out my phone, played the voice memo, his voice loud and clear. Sophia's too busy with Ethan to notice. The room went dead silent, every eye on him. Lisa mumbled something and slipped out, her heels clicking like a coward's retreat. Michael's jaw clenched, his charm crumbling. It's not what you think, he started, but I cut him off. Not what I think? You emailed her my music. You called her baby. You think I'm stupid? My voice cracked, but I didn't care who heard. The assistants were whispering, backing away, but I kept going. I trusted you, gave up everything for you, and you spit on it. He sank into a chair, head in his hands, and for a second, I almost felt sorry for him. Almost. Then he looked up, eyes desperate, and tried one last play. Sophia, I messed up, okay? It was just a stupid crush, I swear. I laughed, sharp and bitter. A crush? You stole my life's work for a crush? You're pathetic. I grabbed my folder, turned to leave, but not before I threw one last dagger. You're done, Michael. I'm taking everything. Ethan, my music, our life. You get nothing. He called after me, voice breaking, but I didn't look back. I walked out into the cold Boston night, my breath visible in the air, feeling like I'd just set fire to my old life. I drove home, tears streaming down my face, but there was a strange relief under the pain. I'd faced him, exposed him, and I didn't back down. For the first time in months, I felt like I was in control. But God, it hurt. The man I loved, the father of my son, was a stranger, and my music, the one thing I thought was mine, had been tainted by his hands. I didn't know what came next, but I knew one thing. I wasn't going to let him break me. Not him, not Lisa, not anyone. I'm Sophia, and I'm done being the fool. The ashes of my old life were still smoldering, but I wasn't going to let them bury me. I'm Sophia, 35, a violinist who just blew up her marriage in a Boston studio. And now I'm picking up the pieces for my son, Ethan, and for myself. That night, after I left Michael begging in the studio, I drove home through the city's icy streets, my hands still shaking from rage. The Boston skyline glittered, indifferent, as I replayed every word, every lie. I'd exposed him, but the victory felt hollow. My heart was a wreck, and I had Ethan to think about. How do you explain to a 10-year-old that his dad's a thief and a cheat? The next morning, I called a lawyer, a sharp woman named Rachel, who didn't flinch when I laid out the evidence. Emails, photos, the voice memo. You've got a strong case, she said, her voice steady. We'll go for full custody of Ethan and damages for the music theft. I nodded, clutching my coffee mug, the warmth grounding me. Filing for divorce was like carving out a piece of myself, but I had no choice. Michael didn't get to waltz back in with apologies and ruin us again. I sent Rachel everything, every email, every screenshot, and when I hit send, it felt like slamming a door shut. Ethan came home from my sister's that afternoon, his backpack slung over one shoulder, eyes searching mine. Mom, you okay? He asked, and I nearly broke. I knelt down, hugged him tight, and said, We're gonna be fine, buddy, just you and me. But he was quiet, too quiet, and I knew he felt the weight of it. That night, he curled up in my bed, clutching his stuffed dinosaur, and whispered, Is Dad coming back? My throat tightened. I don't know, sweetie, I said, stroking his hair. But I'm here, always. His small nod against my chest was enough to steel me. I had to be strong for him. The days that followed were a blur of pain and purpose. I'd wake up hollow, staring at the ceiling, replaying Michael's betrayal. Lisa's laugh, his voice calling her baby. But then Ethan would shuffle into the kitchen, asking for pancakes, and I'd snap out of it. I couldn't let myself drown. I threw myself into my music, locking myself in my home studio, my violin singing out every ounce of my anger and grief. The piece Michael stole? I tore it apart, rewrote it from scratch. Every note was sharper, fiercer, like a blade cutting through the lies. It was mine again, and it was better than ever. Michael tried to crawl back, of course. He showed up at the house a week later, eyes red, voice soft. Sophia, I'm sorry. I was an idiot. Can we talk? I stood in the doorway, arms crossed, Ethan upstairs with his headphones on. Talk? I scoffed. You stole my music, slept with that tramp, and lied to our son. There's nothing left to say. He reached for my arm, but I stepped back. Get out, Michael. My lawyer's handling this. He left, head down, and I slammed the door so hard the frame rattled. Good riddance. The legal battle was brutal but swift. Rachel was a shark, presenting the evidence like a conductor leading a symphony. The judge didn't blink. I got full custody of Ethan, and Michael was ordered to pay damages for stealing my composition. He tried to fight it, claiming he meant no harm, but the emails and voice memo buried him. When the gavel fell, I felt a weight lift, but it didn't erase the ache. Ethan was safe, my music was protected, but I was still a single mom now, rebuilding from scratch. I needed to move forward, so I reached out to a concert organizer I'd worked with years ago, a gruff guy named Paul who always liked my grit. I've got a new piece, I told him over the phone, my voice steady despite the nerves. It's personal, it's raw, and I want to perform it. He paused, then said, send it over. If it's half as good as your old stuff, you're on. I did, and 2 days later, he called back. Sophia, this is fire. You're headlining next month. I hung up, grinning, and Ethan, who'd been eavesdropping, ran over. Mom, you're gonna play again? Like on a big stage? I nodded, and he threw his arms around me. You're gonna kill it! Preparing for the concert became my lifeline. I practiced until my fingers ached, Ethan cheering me on, sometimes banging on his piano to help. He was my rock, his faith in me pulling me through the dark days. One night, as we ate pizza on the couch, he looked at me, all serious. Mom, I'm proud of you. You're like a superhero. I laughed, tears stinging my eyes, and hugged him. You're my superhero, kid. For the first time in weeks, I felt like I could breathe. Lisa, that little homewrecker, vanished from the scene. I heard through a friend she left Boston, probably too ashamed to show her face after the studio showdown. Michael called once more, leaving a voicemail I deleted without listening. He was a ghost now, a bad note in a song I was rewriting. I didn't need him. I had Ethan, my violin, and a fire in my gut that wouldn't quit. The night before my big practice session, I stood in front of my bedroom mirror, violin in hand. My reflection looked tired but fierce, like a warrior who'd survived a battle. You don't need that bastard, I told myself, my voice low. You've got your music, your kid, and you're gonna make it. I lifted my bow, played a single searing note, and felt it, the strength I'd forgotten I had. Michael thought he could break me, but he was wrong. I was done crying. It was time to play, louder and stronger than ever. The stage was waiting, and I was ready to make it mine. I'm Sophia, 35, a violinist who's clawed her way back from betrayal, standing taller for my son, Ethan, and for myself. Boston's winter had settled in, the air sharp with frost, but inside me there was fire. The concert was tonight, my chance to reclaim my music, my strength, and show the world, and myself, that Michael's lies couldn't silence me. Ethan was my anchor, his belief in me, the melody that kept me going. This wasn't just a performance, it was my rebirth. The weeks leading up to the concert had been a whirlwind. I'd practiced until my calluses had calluses, pouring every ounce of pain and defiance into my new composition. It was the piece Michael stole, but I'd made it fiercer, each note a testament to what I'd survived. My studio, once a place of quiet escape, was now a battlefield where I fought my demons with every stroke of my bow. Ethan would sit cross-legged on the floor, sketching superheroes while I played, occasionally shouting, "That's awesome, Mom." His grin was worth more than any applause. I'd moved forward with my life, too. The divorce was finalized, and Michael was gone, slinking off to some new city with his tail between his legs. My lawyer, Rachel, made sure he paid every cent he owed for stealing my music, and I used the money to secure a new place for me and Ethan, a cozy apartment with big windows that let in the morning light. It wasn't our old brownstone, but it was ours, filled with Ethan's laughter and the smell of my coffee. I was teaching violin again, my students' wide-eyed passion reminding me why I loved this work. Lisa, that conniving nobody, was a fading rumor, her name barely mentioned in music circles anymore. Good. She didn't deserve my stage. The night of the concert arrived, and I stood backstage at the Boston Symphony Hall, my heart pounding but steady. My dress was simple, black, clinging to me like armor, my violin gleaming under the dim lights. Ethan was out front in the first row, wearing a tiny suit he'd picked out himself, his eyes bright with pride. I peeked through the curtain, saw him waving, and my nerves melted. This was for him, for us. The hall was packed, the crowd's murmur like a distant wave, but all I could see was my boy, my reason. The lights dimmed and I stepped onto the stage, the spotlight hot on my skin. The audience hushed, and for a moment it was just me and my violin. I raised my bow, closed my eyes, and began. The first notes were soft, trembling, like the doubt and pain I'd carried for months. Then they grew, swelling with anger, defiance, love. Every piece of my story. I played the betrayal, the nights I cried myself to sleep, the moment I faced Michael in that studio. But I also played the mornings with Ethan, his hand in mine, the way he made me laugh over burnt toast. The music was me, raw and unbroken. The piece built to a crescendo, my bow flying, my body swaying as the notes soared. I felt the audience lean in, caught in the spell, but I was playing for Ethan, for the life we were building. The final note hung in the air, sharp and triumphant, and I lowered my bow, breathless. The silence lasted a heartbeat, then the hall erupted. Applause thundered, people on their feet, and I opened my eyes to see Ethan standing, clapping wildly, yelling, "Mom, you're the best!" I laughed, tears streaming down my face, and blew him a kiss. I'd done it. I'd won. Not against Michael or Lisa, but against the part of me that thought I'd never rise again. Backstage, Ethan ran to me, nearly knocking me over with his hug. "You were like a rock star," he shouted, and I hugged him back, my violin still in one hand. "Couldn't have done it without you, buddy," I said, ruffling his hair. Friends and colleagues swarmed, offering congratulations, but it was Ethan's proud smile that mattered most. We walked out into the crisp night, his hand in mine, the city sparkling around us. Boston felt alive again, like it was cheering me on. Now, months later, Ethan and I are thriving. Our apartment is home, cluttered with his drawings and my sheet music. I'm composing again, teaching with a passion I thought I'd lost. And I've got another concert lined up next spring. Michael's a ghost, a lesson I'll never forget but don't dwell on. I don't hate him anymore. He's not worth the energy. Lisa's gone, her career fizzling out like a bad note. My music, though, it's louder, stronger, mine in a way it's never been before. Last night, Ethan and I sat on our couch, sharing a bowl of popcorn, watching some silly movie. He leaned against me, sleepy, and said, "Mom, we're okay, right?" I kissed his forehead, my heart full. "We're more than okay, kid. We've got each other, and we've got music. That's enough." He smiled, nestled closer, and I knew it was true. The symphony of my life had faltered, but I'd rewritten it, note by note, into something bold and beautiful. I'm Sophia, and my music, my story, will never be silent again.